In this lecture, we will discuss about the adaptations. Now, adaptation in a very layman term, it is what we call adjustments in respect to the environment. So these are just adjustments with respect to environment. So these can be genetic or they can be non-genetic. So genetic means while they are since birth, you can say, whereas the non-genetic are those which are adapted during life time. Now these non-genetic also, they can be divided among whether the adaptations are regarding a behavior or whether they are psychological. So these are what the adaptations are. Now there are three main terms regarding these adaptation. That is the first one, that is acclimation. The second one is acclimatization. And the third is basically what we call as a suspension. For the acclimatization, what it is basically when an organism adapt only to a one particular parameter, means adapting to one parameter, whereas the acclimatization means adapting to several parameters. Now, for example, you can for the one parameter, for like an astronaut, when the astronaut goes to the outer space, there is only a one parameter they have to satisfy, right? So, but an acclimatization occurs, for example, when you go to the mountain area. So there are different factors like humidity, temperature. There are different factors. So you have to completely acclimatize yourself as per that environment. So this can be an example for that. So you can write it as a mountain can be the examples, and here the space can be the example, right? Now a suspension. Now suspension is what we call as dormancy, means a period of inactivity. Now there are three basically periods of dormant. There are three terms regarding this thing. So the first is what we call as the Estivation. Estivation is what which occurs during a summertime, means when the temperature is high and it is arid condition, there are certain species or organisms which actually they stop themselves, means a period of inactivity. Their metabolic rate will reduce, their blood pressure will reduce, and at the same time they get to the sleep for like 6 months, 8 months, something like that. And this is basically in both the vertebrates as well as the invertebrates. An example for this can be the snails. The land snails is one of examples for that. The lady beetles are another example for the estivation, like the North American desert tortoise, the crocodiles, salamanders. These are all example of the estivation. Similarly, we have hibernation. Hibernation is something which occurs during the winter period. Now this is also we call as a winter sleep. This is a summer sleep. Now the famous example for the hibernations are the bear is one of them. The rodents are also the example of the hibernation. Now on the basis of this thing, you know, uh, somewhere around in 1877, the Allen's, there was a scientist, Joel Allen, and he gave a concept of the Allen's rule in the eco-geographical rule. That basically says that, let me write it here, the name of that person, that's what we call Allen's rule. So the Allen rule says that when organism adapt to the colder climates, means all the organisms which are the Antarctica, Arctic, on the northern pole. So what they generally have a common feature is that their limbs are shorter, their ears are shorter, because so that amount of heat they radiate is lower, so that they are more heat available to the body. So which clearly shows that an organism adapt itself as per the environment surrounding. So it is basically a surface area to volume ratio. So I can write it here. It is basically the surface area to volume ratio for homeothermic animals. Yes, basically, which how to maintain the average temperature. These organisms have evolved themselves over the period of time, like a polar bear. The fox of in the northern area, they have the shorter ear as compared to those in the tropical areas and the temperate areas. So this is what the Allen's rules says. Let's jump to the next chapter.